Hello, and welcome to the Modern Romantic Podcast, where we celebrate and inspire romanticism through passionate people doing incredible things. Hi, I have a callback on Wednesday. I'm so excited. I was going to do something more comedic, but I'm just really excited. And I am joined by the person who is part of my support group for getting into theater and doing more shows, Emily. Hi, Emily.
Yay! Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
A
Uh,
callback. So this is for theater, yes?
Yes. The show is Head Over Heels at a local theater,
Okay.
and I got called back for two different roles, and I don't know which one. They have me sing. They're having me sing the Go Go's "Vision of Nowness." Um,
Hmm.
it's a very interesting song to be given, so looking forward to it.
Two parts. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it more to do with like how my voice lands because all of the music is like way up here and I'm like way down here. So it's a little different for me.
Hmm. A little bit of a stretch.
Little bit, but I'm looking forward to it. They wouldn't have given me a callback if they didn't see something. So yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it next episode.
Go you. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll get to see who you get to play,
yeah,
hopefully.
yeah. But in the theater vein, we also have a fellow multi creative, passionate person here with us today. So, Emily, would you introduce our fantastic guest today?
It's one of those things where it's like hard to say it differently because we say it so much here, and I love that we can. So it's like multifaceted, multi passionate, multi talented. But we have all of that in Jennifer here today. She's a writer and an actor and an author and a director, and she's probably a really great cook too. Welcome, Jennifer Lieberman.
Hello. Hi, Trey, and hello, Emily.
Hello.
First of all, congratulations on your callback. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
Um, can I ask where you located? You said it's a local theater. So, what city or town or where?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, fabulous. I
Yeah,
haven't been there, but I heard there's a really cool art scene there.
yeah. It is a little small. I won't get into the whole thing of it, but we are the small and the mighty.
Well,
That's
that's
right.
all that matters.
Yeah.
The small and the mighty.
And if you don't mind me asking, I know that where are you currently based?
I'm currently based in Toronto.
Ooh, okay. I've never been to Canada. What is
Nice city.
Toronto like?
Toronto is a very big city these days. We've had like a huge population boom in the past like 10, 15 years. It's a fascinating city because it's one of the most multicultural cities in the world. So we have a very diverse landscape of people, which brings a landscape of culture, food, arts, so many different things going on here. And it's also huge geographically.
Mhm.
So years ago, it was kind of broken up into a few different smaller cities, and then the Ontario government, our province, so like kind of like our state,
Yeah.
forced an amalgamation of like several different cities to join the Toronto municipality. So now it's like a mega city. That's what they call
Mm,
it. It's a mega city. So I feel like in the downtown area, it's got a very kind of New York vibe. It's walkable. There's a lot of high rise buildings, more by the minute. We've got a great entertainment district, theater, live music, sporting events. But then it's so vast and sprawling, it's a little bit like Los Angeles, that if you go outside of like the Manhattan downtown core of a few miles, then you need a car and everything is very, very spread out. So it's kind of a combination. I've lived in both New York and LA, so I can see the similarities between we don't have good weather. Let me get that straight. We definitely don't. Um, Maybe like 1 month out of the year we do. But just in that sense that we have that like downtown hustle and bustle core, and then we have like a vast kind of, I wouldn't even call it suburbia, but just kind of suburbs, you know. So there's my very long answer.
No, that's
So you must,
great.
yeah, you must really appreciate those days when it is beautiful outside then.
I do. And if you're dressed appropriately, you can enjoy the weather. It's like, for example, it's been negative 20 degrees Celsius the past couple of days, which is about 0 Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you wear your regular clothes and just throw on a jacket, yes, you're going to be freezing. But if you're wearing like Sherpa lined leggings under your pants and you're wearing layers of undershirts and fleece and wool socks and, you know, like a thermal vest and then a jacket, it's quite pleasant to walk around. I walked for an hour and a half today um, in that freezing cold weather, and I was totally fine. I was actually like breaking a little bit of a sweat.
So that's if that's what it was like there today, then we here in Minnesota had warmer weather than you did because it was nearly 50 here today,
Oh,
Fahrenheit.
wow.
So yeah,
So a
and we've had a
gorgeous spring day.
it felt that way and it's weird for February.
Hmm.
So it's unseasonal and I imagine we will be smacked with some more snow soon enough, but yeah, the 20 below slash zero is what I would expect for right now. So kind of surprising. But yeah, the when I saw a fly like in the air and I was like, this is wrong. This feels really wrong for this time of year. But I get it. I got this Josh got me this really great pair of wool leggings to wear under like as a base layer and man those are amazing.
Game changer.
Oh yeah, because otherwise I was actually wearing several pairs of pants.
Well, it's survival.
Uh-huh.
I I remember being so mad at my mom when I moved to Nebraska because she bought me like legit thermal underwear to wear as like that thing. I have never loved her more after having been through negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit
Right?
weather.
Yes. Like there's a reason these things exist and they might not be glamorous, but they definitely serve their purpose. And as much as I love fashion, this time of year, it's all about function. It's, you know, it's hard to think about being cute when, you know, you're walking to appointments or taking public transportation and waiting outside or waiting on a subway platform. Very hard to worry about being cute.
That's one thing that I feel like some of these companies that make really nice, very functional pieces for the type of weather we face, if they would maybe think of some cute colors instead of the typical like black, gray, maybe navy. I did luck out and find a purple jacket. But otherwise, yeah, it's difficult. The base layer, no one's seeing, but I can find that in a cute color.
Yes.
So
Yes.
to all the designers out there, consider us,
Yes,
please.
definitely. Or then you'll find like you know, some sort of like bright orange something and it's like who's going to wear that if you're not working at a construction site or in some sort of job where you need to wear a flashy color, you know? It's like you've got exactly your navy, gray, black, or bright orange.
Right. Like we're not going to get hit by a car, but it's not really cute.
You know, and don't get me wrong, I do like orange and I have several orange pieces in my wardrobe,
Mhm.
but not really the shade they're making these coats in.
No.
No.
You've said you've lived all over. Do you have a place you prefer to write in?
Well, I definitely get the most inspiration in New York.
Okay.
And I think my love affair with New York is more because of what New York represents to me, because that was the first place I lived when I lived outside of my parents' home.
Okay.
Wow.
That
So
makes
I
sense.
feel like New York represents this kind of freedom um, and possibility that I felt for the first time. So there's always that nostalgia there. LA had the best weather
Oh
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It was very beautiful, and I really came to enjoy being outdoors all year round. It's not hot all year round, don't get me wrong. Like this time of year in LA, you definitely need a sweater. At night, you might be wearing like a beanie and a scarf and a jacket as the sun goes down and the temperature drops 20 or 30 degrees below what it was if the sun was out. But being able to still go hiking, biking, be outdoors. I'm quite sporty and I love outdoor activities. So for that reason, I really loved LA. And when people used to ask me like, "Oh, what are the cool places? Like what cool things do you do in LA?" And I'm like, I go on a hike every day after work to watch like the sunset.
That's
Like
cool.
couldn't tell you the name of a single nightclub. Like I don't know. But those are the things I like to do.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they fill you with a lot of inspiration. So people take inspiration from all
Hmm.
different places. Um, I'm curious, you have done so many different types of things. And the question I had as I was thinking of the litany of things we wanted to ask tonight, what encourages you to go after all of these different things? Being a writer, being a producer, being an actor, being all of those things. Why go after all of those?
Well, it's all to serve one goal, which is to get a role.
No.
Okay.
So basically, I my first love and my true love is performance. And as you know, as you have a call back this week, when you're a performer, you're at the mercy of other people choosing you.
Mhm.
And that doesn't feel great. You know, it can be fun and exciting for a year or two, but feeling like you have no control over your fate in an industry is really a difficult way to navigate life.
Mhm.
And I had my first opportunity to produce. I was part of a theater company in New York, as I was mentioning before we went on the air. I am a total theater nerd. I love the stage. Um, I find like the theater to be very sacred, a sacred place, and it's a place that we can explore ideas that we can't always explore on film. We can explore different types of writing, different incarnations of art on stage because it's not produced for the masses. You can only sell as many tickets as there are seats in the theater. So you have more opportunity to experiment in theater than with a film production that is quite costly and you need a mass audience to buy tickets in order to generate enough revenue to make your money back and hopefully get paid in the end. Um, so it's a very different medium. So I was with a theater company and the producer was moving on to something else and they asked if I would step up as the producer and I said no. No. I'm an actor. Like I just want to act. And they approached me a few different times and I was the youngest person in the company. I was only 22 at the time.
Hmm.
And you know, it was a lot of responsibility. It was just a lot. Um, but I learned my first negotiation through
Mm.
this because I basically said, well, I'll only come on as a producer if I can still be an actor in the productions, which sounded very smart during the negotiation. And then being thrown into produce an original play and be in it at such a young age was a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I was not
Mhm.
a, let me put it this way, I was not a pleasant person to be around during that time. You know, and I feel bad for the people who worked with me because like I would because some of them I haven't seen since, you know, since since that production, or or the second production, and I would be horrified to hear what they would say about me from that experience, because now I've produced enough projects, and I've developed skills where I know how to like manage stress,
Right.
troubleshoot, not make the same mistakes. You're always going to make mistakes no matter what you do. There's always going to be problems no matter what you do. But with experience and time, you kind of develop a way of dealing with it and not being so horrible to people.
That resonates quite a bit, and I think back to like I had done a stint with a production, and oh, me and another actor just butted heads for a solid like 3.5 weeks, and it was so tense and so palpable. Um, I was trying to manage it, and on like the ride, we were riding bikes back to our place that we were going to stay, and I wound up talking it out with somebody else, and I said, "You know who's just driving me crazy in this entire production? Can I just vent for a second?" And they instantly said the person's name, and I go, "Is it really that obvious?" And she goes, "Yeah, it really is." And talked to me a lot about like managing those sorts of expectations and managing getting along with other people. I don't know why I started going down on this tangent, but just it taught me a lot about myself in the same vein of I have this frustration with somebody else, but it's also me acting in a particular way. And that's not my brand, that's not my personhood, so I don't want to be doing that with this production.
Yeah, and ultimately, we can't manage how other people behave. We can just manage our reactions and our behavior. And there is, like, it's called drama for a reason. There are a lot of competing egos. There's a lot of high drama going on behind the scenes. There's usually more drama behind the scenes than on stage, and that was apparent if you ever saw the movie Birdman.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I feel like that just brought it all to life in such a amazing way, between like the egos and the love affairs, and so many expectations riding on it, and everybody being so invested because they have a need to get a specific thing out of the project or out of the production or specific recognition. And sometimes people lose sight of the art, of the goal, and the fact that you're all on the same team. But at the same time, sometimes that drama really brings the piece to life. So
It
it's a double-edged
sometimes,
sword.
yeah, it sometimes drives people to do better
Mm-hmm.
and or to work harder or to, yeah, I can see that for sure. It doesn't always ruin a piece of theater or a production. I imagine it could, but we don't hear about that as often as it being amazing.
Or we hear about it in 20 years when they do a documentary about it, and they're like,
Right.
"This is how the production came together."
Yeah, I wrote a blog post about it a few years ago, and every time you make a piece of art, especially when it's something as collaborative as film or theater, because these are highly collaborative
Mm-hmm.
industries, there's a war. There has to be, you are on the battlefield every day when you are trying to make art. The writer is fighting for their story, the director's fighting for their vision, the actors are fighting for the truth of their character. Like, everybody's coming in there. And you know there are a lot of productions where the writer had a certain idea or the director had a certain idea, and then you come in and you clash and you butt heads, and it actually makes the production better. And you have to push each other's buttons to push the creative process forward. So there's no way to describe it, other than it's a war. You're at war, and the victory is a successful production.
Mm-hmm.
But it never comes from everybody being pleasant with each other. Like, there's nothing important going on if everybody's just pleasant.
It's funny you say war. I'm going to remember this now because of how true it is, and that concept is something that I would like to remember. I did I costumed a play one time where I I was getting help from the actors. They were so nice. We didn't have a big budget as usual, and one of the things that we absolutely needed was a certain type of military patch for this one costume to mark rank or something. I don't remember even, but it was a very specific patch to go on a uniform. And we had a hard time finding it because it was like this historical thing that it didn't exist anymore. And so I'm on like eBay and these other auction sites trying to find the patch, and I found one on eBay. There's one on eBay. And so I'm bidding and I'm bidding, and now I'm over budget, and I'm bidding, and I'm like, I'm upset. I'm losing it. I didn't get the patch. And so I showed up to rehearsal the next day, and sure enough, I was bidding against one of the other actors who was trying to help me get the patch.
Oh my goodness.
And so we grossly overpaid for this patch, but we got it. And
Yeah.
so we were victorious, and we were, kind of irritated with each other and ourselves for not like, hey, this wouldn't be you, would it? But yeah, so I get it. It felt that way very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, for sure. And especially like when emotions are running so high because everybody wants to do a good job, and that's what it comes down to. I think if you can give everybody that kind of generosity of spirit of, even when you're butting heads with people, it's because everyone's trying to do a good job. Everybody's trying to make the piece better. Nobody's coming from they want to tear it down.
Right.
And if we can remind ourselves that, and that's something that I've learned over time, and and there's a combination of that, and then there's a lot of insecurity as well. Actors are known to be some of the most insecure people in the world, or not just actors, just artists in general. And a lot of times those emotions come out because especially the actors, they're the ones on stage. They're the ones who have to deal with the crickets in the audience, or the boos, or because if it doesn't go right, they're the face of the project. Like, how many times has there been a film or a show made and nobody's criticizing, the production team or the network that it's on. They're criticizing Sarah Jessica Parker for, and I forget the name of the new Sex in the City. Oh, and Just Like That.
Yeah,
Right? Everybody's criticizing her, but there's 100 people working on that show. Yes,
at
she's the
least.
face of it, but she's not the person who greenlit it. She's not the person who put the money up. She's not the person who wrote the script. She's not the person, who made the majority of the decisions. At her stage of the game, yes, she's making some of those big decisions, but it's not all on her. And when it came out, because my mom, my sister-in-law, a lot of people were very excited about it. And I think people were kind of trepidatious, like, is it going to be good? Is it going to ruin the legacy? Is it going to whatever? And, there was a lot of mixed comments. And I just like to remind everybody, she didn't have to do it. She didn't have to do that show. She's, made enough money off of Sex in the City that she doesn't have to ever work again. She could just go home and hang out with her kids and go on vacation and have a beautiful life. But she's providing hundreds of jobs, hundreds of jobs to people, to take a job she doesn't need. And there has to be something to be said for that.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I didn't expect you to say the word jobs, and I'm glad that you did. That's not an angle that I think most people think about in the entertainment industry. It's she's providing what? Entertainment. But jobs is more important.
Well, she's providing entertainment to the masses, to the people
Yes.
who aren't involved in the industry, but for the people who are involved in the industry, especially following COVID and especially following the writers and actors strike that lasted for over 8 months in 2023. And the fact that we had this huge boom of content being made with all the streamers, kind of taking over the industry, and now those productions have been cut down to a quarter. There's only a quarter of movies and TV shows being made than there were in 2018 or 2019.
Wow. I didn't know that.
So we went from having more jobs than we've ever had in the history of film and television to to not having many. And that's the thing, like as an actor, I don't think I would have thought of these things, but the fact that I've taken on the hat of producer, writer, director, every time I work on a production outside of the acting, I'm providing jobs for people, and I haven't done a big show or a huge feature film yet. I've done more indie projects, but that's still jobs that people are great for, especially if they're starting out and they're on the indie level and they need to show a short film that they did to get that next gig or that bigger job. So it all trickles down, and even the small projects are just as important as the big projects, because you're never going to get a big project without doing a smaller one first.
Yep.
I have to say that I love this perspective, and I love the way that you are framing this. And you answered a question that I was going to ask you, which was how would 20-year-old version of you take this perspective that you have now? And I think you answered it by saying that you didn't have this perspective earlier on. So instead, I'm going to ask, how would you encourage those that are getting started in this industry to keep this mindset when they are faced with some some disappointments, or they're not getting the part, or they're not seeing the type of vantage point that you currently have? How do you encourage them to keep going?
Well, I guess the answer is we don't live in a me industry. We live in a we industry. But that also goes for my perspective of the rest of the world. We don't live in a me world. We live in a we world. And it doesn't matter what you do, what industry you're in, everything you do, you're going to need support from people. You're going to, whether it's at your job or in your personal life or raising a family, it takes a village to do anything in this world. And that's one thing that I learned, because when I started off wanting to be an actress, it was very much a me thing. And, I want to be on stage and I want to play this role and I want to do this and I want to do that. And now, or quickly after I started producing, for example, the first film I associate produced, it was a feature film, and I auditioned to be an actor. I auditioned for a role, and I said to the director, well, even if you don't cast me, if there's any work behind the scenes, if you need a PA, if you need somebody to run errands, get coffee, I'd be interested in that, because I've never worked on a film set before. Like, I had done extra work and I had done little student films, but I had never worked on like a big feature film project. And, even if I didn't have a role in it, I wanted to learn the process. And if I hadn't been producing in theater for a few years prior to that, I don't know if I would have had that perspective. But having taken the production job in theater, and I say job loosely because I didn't make any, I wasn't getting paid. Let's put it that way. But I learned about running lighting and running sound and casting and costumes. Like, I did a lot of the costumes. I made them in my little basement apartment in Queens. And I wore all the hats, as you do when you're doing indie productions, whether it's film or theater, any kind of grassroots project, even outside the entertainment industry. So I think if you just remember it's a we and we're part of a team, and if you're not getting the roles that you want, or if you're not getting any roles, go and work behind the scenes. Go and be an assistant. Just find a way to get into the theater and get on a set any way you can, because guess what? That's how you network also. You're always going to meet people on set who can hire you. You're going to meet directors, you're going to meet writers, you're going to meet producers, you're going to meet crew people, and there are lots of people that I've hired on my projects that I met working behind the scenes on a different project in a different capacity. And, I talk about low hanging fruit because everybody, wants to be in the big time and wants to work with the big wigs and everything like that. But every time you're in an acting class, there's a whole bunch of actors around you who are dedicated, passionate creatives, and if you can make a little short film, go after the people that you know. Go after the people who you've worked with on a short student film or on a small production. And because you never know, one day they might be working on a big production or on a TV show. And, and also like there's no shelf life in this industry. So just because somebody might be older than you or, double your age and they're still working on a short film, you don't know what they're working on next week. And you don't know what they worked on the week before or the year before. So you can't really have an attitude about it, because a lot of people who've already made it will still work on smaller projects because they're passionate about it, or because it's their friend's project or their friend's kid's project or something like that. So, there isn't really a hierarchy.
I would agree. You said low hanging fruit. And I was thinking of, once you explained that, I was thinking about how I have a similar way of saying something like that, but it's planting seeds, where you're leaving seeds everywhere you can.
Yes.
Because you never know which one's going to grow.
Exactly. Well, planting seeds is one thing, but also work with the people that you have accessible to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know some people who keep holding out because they want it to be bigger. They want it to be with bigger people or bigger. And 10 years can go by and you're still waiting for that bigger person. And that's the other thing too, when we're first starting out, everything feels really precious. And you can't be so precious about everything you do, especially if you don't have a body of work behind you. Once you've developed that body of work, then it's not about being precious. It's about having a certain standard for, you don't want to step down. You want each production or each book or each theater piece to be better than the previous one. But if you're still, 10 years later, afraid to pull the trigger on your short film, you could have made 10 short films in those 10 years.
Right.
And if you would have made 5 of them, by the 10th year, you might have gotten your feature film made or 2 feature films. And, so I'm a big believer in work begetting work, and just be open to opportunities. You never know when the door you want to walk through is going to open, but there's open doors around you all the time.
Well said.
Yeah. Can somebody clip that, please?
Yeah.
I had a question and it absolutely left me. This is like the worst time for that to happen.
That's okay. Well, let me
second?
ask Emily. I wanted
Yeah.
to ask Emily more about your costuming, and
Okay.
because I love fashion, I love costume. So, what's kind of your favorite era in terms of fashion?
At one point in my life, I would have answered Elizabethan.
Mm-hmm.
There's a structure and a rigidity about it, but also it has beautiful elements. But I don't know if I believe that is my favorite anymore. It's definitely been a big focus of my life, of the history that I've done, but now I kind of lean toward big and flowy. So I don't know if there's an era to that. But I still, if I had to pick an era, I would still probably pick Elizabethan, maybe.
Okay.
If it
So you
was a
like very
specific.
dramatic,
Oh, yeah.
very dramatic pieces.
Over
Yes.
the top. Wow
That's a lot of
factor.
fun.
Yeah, some Victorian. I've done Victorian too, but or like I did a Marie Antoinette gown as well at some point. But yeah, I like that dramatic layers over the top kind of. If I can't, if someone isn't gasping at some point, then I missed putting pockets in it or something.
Oh, that's so funny. That's fabulous. One of my projects I did was an 80s dance spoof,
Oh,
and
neat.
I had the most fun costuming that because we had like
Yeah.
no budget. And there used to be a fun little secondhand store in LA called It's a Wrap.
Oh,
And
neat.
that's where a lot of costumes would go after they were on a film set.
Okay.
And because they were done, nobody needed them anymore. And yeah, I remember collecting a whole bunch of like American Apparel was big at that
Oh, yeah.
time. And but also like it was just ridiculous. And I put all the guys in like my clothes. Because, like neon crop tops and like tank tops with like metallic sunglasses. Like it was, yeah, you can have so much fun with
That
wardrobe,
is
and
awesome.
I feel like it really helps tell a story.
80s is fun too. I think 70s and 80s are two eras that I would be drawn to as well.
Yeah, just the colors and yeah, and there was just a lot of comedy just with the costumes, putting certain costumes on certain characters. They walk on screen and you're just like, it's ridiculous. What's that person wearing?
Plus, you can take stuff that like you wouldn't, you can take like a piece of mesh and now it's like some kind of cool like cuff or glove or something that,
I
yeah.
worked with fishnets a lot. Like I'd cut out the crotch and like wear it as a top and like put
Yes.
like and then like put some sort of pop top over it. It was great. But yeah, I've never had the opportunity to do Elizabethan or Victorian costumes that I would love to play with those one day.
It's a lot of work. I did do some costuming for an 80s music video by Kids in America, and that was really fun because it was 80s. They're kind of an 80s cover band anyway, so but that it was kind of like that too. So I can relate to that needing some, we're looking for earrings that are lightning bolts and things like that.
Yeah, so much fun.
Yeah. How about you, Trey? Do you have a Trey does some costuming as well, not exactly for theater, but for like Comic Cons and things like that.
Oh, fantastic.
Mine is all over the place. Inspiration will happen in the most random places. Sometimes I'm scavenging through like patterns, and then I'll find one. I'll go, that's really interesting. That okay, I found this character, and it can be an absolute wild take on something. What I've found, it's normally a combination of a character mixed with some sort of historical reference point. I wound up doing a recreation of a 1906 coronation gown from Russia mixed with a Pokemon, just because the typing fit together, and I really loved it so much.
See, Comic Cons are so much fun because of that, just going to see what people are wearing. And I'm always so fascinated. There's Fan Expo that they do in Toronto. I haven't been to like the official San Diego Comic-Con. But I've been to a couple of different cons, and I'm always fascinated to see like the combinations. And I have a friend, she does like Wonder Woman impersonations, and she did a photo shoot a few years ago where she was basically recreating Madonna album covers
Oh.
as Wonder Woman.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Exactly. Like so creative, so imaginative. The photos came out like beautifully. And yeah, and it's just a combination of two things nobody would ever really think go together, but they created some
Sure.
really impeccable photographs from that. It was fascinating.
It's a great world for mashups like that. Like you don't see that really anywhere else, at least that I know of, where
Yeah.
you're getting
And
like Little Red Riding Hood Star Lord or something. Like, I just made that up off the top of my head. Um, but what a cool concept, Wonder Woman as Madonna album covers. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
thought of it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But and that's what's so great about creativity, right? Like there are no limits. The only limits there are in our own imagination.
Right.
So,
so
You were going to
this,
say something, Trey.
yeah, I mean, along those lines of creativity, we had Felicia Day on our podcast a while back and talked about unlocking your creativity.
Hmm.
So, what are three things that you would suggest to other people to help unlock that creativity?
yes, I wrote a blog post about this as well. Um, so basically, people feel like they kind of need to force themselves to be creative if they don't feel like they've been productive. Like, because when people ask me about my writing process, like, I'm not the type of writer who has to write a certain amount of pages every day. Or I don't really give myself deadlines, but that's also because like I'm not writing for a network TV show. If I did, it would be a different story. But I'd also probably have a writer's room of people to collaborate with. Um, but basically, it's our job as creatives to stay inspired. So that can be different for everybody, but I go see a lot of theater. It can be dance theater, it can be opera. I go to see live music, like the gamut from, rock shows to classical music. I go to museums. I go to different art expos, and basically just kind of like immerse yourself in creative life, and also nurture your inner child. There's a book called The Artist's Way, which I love, and it talks about taking yourself on an artist date every week. And this is not a date where it's like, okay, I'm writing about such and such a thing, so I should go research this thing. No, that's not what an artist date is. An artist date is nurturing the little 5-year-old and what that 5-year-old wants to do for an hour or two or an afternoon or however much time you have to spare. And if it's, like going to a carnival, getting an ice cream and going on a ride you might be a little too big for, that's what the artist date is,
Hmm. It's an
or
indulgence. Hmm.
yeah, exactly. And it's allowing yourself to have those experiences that somebody, I don't know who, told us we couldn't anymore because we reached a certain age. And I feel like, kind of as I get older and, my peers are getting older, it's like certain things, it's like, oh, I used to love doing that, but I haven't done that in like 10 years. And it's like, why not? Who told you you couldn't? So I think just getting in touch with the inner child, because that's the part of our psyche that allows us to play and explore and create. And getting off your screen, get off your screen, like as much as you can, get off your screen, get into the real world and experience actual life, not virtual life. And because our screens don't have senses yet. You know, you can't taste, touch, smell, you know, experience, you know, they're limited to two senses, seeing and hearing. And there's, you know, and those senses don't really evoke our emotions the way, you know, texture and smell and taste does. So yeah, that's what I would say. You know,
Right
get in
on.
touch with that inner child, go see things that inspire you, you know, whether it's going to a Comic-Con or, you know, seeing some circus performance. Like I love going to see aerial arts and, you know, different, just kind of weird different things that people are like, what? You did what? Yeah, I did
Is,
it. You should
is that
too. You
some?
should try it.
Is that something you're that intentional about, where you're like, you know what, I haven't done any of this in a week or two or a month or whatever, and so I need to get back to
Yeah, and I actually keep like a running list. I have like a little
awesome.
notebook. I'm, you know, I still like to like write in notebooks with a pen. There's something
Hmm.
romantic about that for me.
Yes.
So I keep a running list, and like whether I see something online or, you know, I hear a song or something in a movie reminds me of something, I'll keep a running list of like, you know, I really love rock climbing. Gone rock climbing in a while. Like when I was younger, I used to go horseback riding. You know, when was the last time I went on a trail ride? It's actually been a year and a half since I've been on a horse. And I was like, okay, as soon as the snow thaws, I need to go back and go on a trail ride. You know, there's an obstacle course called like treetop trekking,
Oh, neat.
you know, where they have like zip lines and like, you know, my niece and nephew love going to that, but you know what? So do I. And I will take myself to those things,
Awesome.
like just to have fun, because I try to make fun a priority at least a few times a month. It's very easy to forget the fun. You know, it's very easy to get bogged down with work and bills and responsibilities. But I feel like when I'm having fun, everything else feels easier.
Absolutely. Last week our guest was Ray Tedeton, and she said she's an art teacher, and sometimes her students will tell her that they're stuck, and so she'll tell them to just go make a silly little thing. And that's kind of like what your advice is too. If you just go focus on some silly little thing, it doesn't have to have deep meaning. It just do a silly little thing. And I loved that. I That's my big takeaway from that episode. I think this might be my big takeaway from this one, is to keep the fun in it. You're
Yeah.
right on there.
Yeah, exactly. And like when I work on set, when it's my production, my motto is if you're not having fun, you're fired. You know, it's long days. We're trying to get a lot done with, you know, not enough money, not enough time. Like, and it doesn't matter how much time you have when it comes to these things. I think Trey can agree with me. It doesn't matter. I don't think in the history of theater a play has ever opened when the cast is like, oh yeah, we were totally ready. Like we could have opened, we could have opened 2 nights ago. We could have
No.
opened last week. Like that's never happened. Whether you have 2 weeks of rehearsal or 2 months of rehearsal, or you know, Stanislavski having like 2 years of rehearsal, it's never enough. So you gotta have fun. You gotta love it. You have to enjoy the people you're working with, even when you're butting heads. You know, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Everybody's at war to make it better, not to make it worse. You know, and find the fun in it, because there is like, and it just everybody lights up when they're having fun in a really amazing way. You know, and
Hmm.
we're just so much more open when we are.
Absolutely.
If I can interject and say, like, even during this most recent audition, like prior to that, I have never really found the fun in auditioning before. I've always been that scared, like scarecrow standing in front of somebody, and I never really found the fun in it. And I found myself with even this most recent audition getting up, having fun singing a song in front of the audition panel, And then when we came back to read the character sides, like throwing myself into these parts, and I'm like, I'm actually having fun. Like this is actually like a
Exactly.
blast.
That's
Yes, and
awesome.
they call it a play for a reason, you know? And it's true because it's our insecurity and our ego, like we don't want to do it wrong. We want to get picked. You know, like emotions tend to run high, but there's something to be said for just throwing it away and having fun. And I understand that. I can totally relate to that because, you know, I am a victim of the same thought process, especially when it's something that is high stakes, you know, and I do commercial auditions quite frequently, and then the bigger roles are less frequently these days, but hopefully that'll turn around soon. Um, but I've learned to just have fun with these auditions and be ridiculous and bring my artistry to it, because that's the thing, it's like you got to like stake your territory in terms of your artistry, and it's like, okay, they don't want it, okay, that's fine, but I still got to act today. And it was Bryan Cranston who I heard say that in an interview a few years back, because he was doing a lot of commercials, and then he got Seinfeld. He played the dentist on Seinfeld. Then
Oh,
he got Malcolm in the Middle. Then he got Breaking Bad, which is, you know, his legendary role. Um, but basically, he's like, that's your job. Your job is to go audition, like, you know, and you have to have fun with it, and you have to play with it, and you have to do the best job you can do and put your stamp on it, you know, and mark your territory with it, and move on
mm-hmm.
to the next one, and don't worry about it, you know. And if you already kind of resolve that, it's like, okay, like I'm going to go on 100 auditions before I book one, you know, and then once you book that one, it's like, okay, then I'm going to need to do 25 before I book the next one, and then 15, and then 10, and then, you know, you start booking more consistently. But it's really important to like conquer the psychological game, you know, because especially especially with commercials, it's not about your acting. It's about the ad agency. It's
Mm-hmm.
about the product. It's about the company. It's, you know, like it
Yeah.
has absolutely nothing to do with you. With theater, it's different, especially with the singing audition. You know, I'm not a singer. I do theater, but I do drama, comedy. I was not blessed with a singing voice. I love to sing, but people would pay me not to. I joke.
Oh,
I tell people I could be a billionaire just from people paying me not to sing.
Oh, there's an idea, Trey. Not for
Um,
you, obviously.
okay.
yeah,
For us.
but the more fun you have, you know, and the more fun you are in the room, the more likely people want to invite you to come play with them.
Yeah.
I think we spend a lot of time as creative people, and if we're not doing the thing that we want to do or that we're setting out to do, that we're not making art. But from everything that you've described so far, that from being behind the scenes, being in front of the camera, being on the stage, or even doing all the things behind these things, you're still making art at every beck and call. So if you think that you're not doing art because you're maybe don't get that part and you are working elsewhere, no, you're still doing the thing. You're still creating the vision and still being a part of that process. So
Ex-
enjoy the fun of the process.
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And, you know, you might not get your dream that day, but how cool is it that you get to help someone else get theirs?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like you
Absolutely.
still get to be part of a dream, you know, and being part of any dream in my book is pretty freaking cool. Like whether it's mine or someone else's, like, you know, like my favorite thing to do in the world is to make something out of nothing. And that's what the creative process is. And it's like,
Yep.
okay, I don't always get, it's not always going to be mine, but the fact that I got to help make something, pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Truth found, hand to heart. Uh, the truth found. I see the comment. I don't think it transferred over from YouTube, but I see the comment, and we'll make sure to go back and take a look at that. I think she's trying to show you some love with the.
Yeah, like are those
Oh,
emojis that didn't come through right? I'm gonna go find out.
Okay.
well, thank you. Thank you to everybody who's tuning in, and I hope this resonates with you a little bit. But I'm really passionate about what I do, and at this stage of the game, I'm just happy I'm still in the game. You know, like I talked about the theater company that I was part of in New York in my early 20s, and I only know of one other person who's still creating from that company.
Wow.
You know, and we were part of that company for a few years, and it was our whole lives revolved around it. And it was all about the art and all about creating something. And, you know, like I said, like I've learned to wear the other hats. I've learned to produce. I started writing projects for myself. I started directing. My novel is an adaptation of my one-woman show. And everything that has led me, this is another thing I want to mention. Everything that has led me to a success was by doing something I didn't really want to do. I didn't really want to do it. I didn't want to be a producer, but I did it. And now I'm still a producer, and it's opened more doors for me than any monologue I've ever learned in my life. You know, and then somebody suggested I do a one-woman show when I got to LA because nobody knew I existed, and I should do a showcase, write myself a showcase piece. And my first year in LA, I produced 2 other one-woman shows for women in my acting class. And they were so brilliant. And especially after producing their shows, I was like, no, I can't do a one-woman show. Like I could never do that. And I don't want to. Like, no, I'm not good enough. It's going to be a lot of work. Like I can help somebody else with their show, but that's not me. But I did it anyway. And then somebody's like, oh, you know, that show would be a great book. Because I ended up, when I finally did do the show, I was more creatively fulfilled than any of the little other things I had gotten cast in. And I was like, oh, wait, I get to write all these parts for myself, and I actually get to perform them. And this creative process was so fulfilling. So I kept working on the show and ended up taking it to New York to a festival and winning the Audience Choice Award for it. And then people were like, this would be a great chick lit novel. And I was like, I don't want to write a book. I just wanted more acting roles. I just wanted to get cast in something. But I wrote the book. And the book was like several years of, you know, writing it and giving up because I couldn't get an agent, I couldn't get a publisher, I couldn't, you know, and finally my old boyfriend was like, what do you mean you wrote a book? I was like lamenting. I was like complaining about, you know, why hasn't it happened yet? And I wrote the stupid book. And he was like, what book did you write? And I was like, yeah, I wrote a novel. And he's like, no, you didn't. I was like, yeah, I really did. I've written like 5 drafts of it over the years. And he read it and he was like, okay, self-publish it. This is good. Just self-publish it. Like, don't worry about a publisher. Don't worry about an agent. Don't worry about the hype. Just get to the finish line.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I did. And then the title got censored because it was called Year of the Slut. And in New York theater, everybody loves the slut. But online, a reading audience, you know, it was actually like the bots on Amazon and Instagram that censored the title from any type of advertising. So I could sell it on Amazon, but I couldn't advertise it. I could have a Facebook and Instagram page, but I couldn't buy any ads. So then after like a year of being completely dead in the water, one of my colleagues was like, change the title. I don't want to change the title. The title's why it was a success. Like the title's the best thing about the book.
I don't wanna.
I don't wanna. So like my advice is just do it anyway. Do it anyway. When a door opens, just do it anyway. You never know. And that's why it's like, it's like survival. People are like, why do you wear so many hats? I'm like, survival. I refuse to die. I just refuse to die. I just really, I want to keep working. I want to keep creating. And then the book, I changed the title, and it hit #1 on Amazon and won 5 literary awards. And the point isn't the success. The point is sometimes, like, people talk about like manifesting and alignment, and if it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. No, that's BS. That's BS. Sometimes when you're feeling the resistance, that's because that's where you need to go. And if you listen to the resistance, you're never going to get there. It's like pushing through the workout, pushing through those last reps, pushing through the last few miles on a marathon. That's when you want to quit the most. And that's when, like, you have to push and get through it and get to the end. Sorry, I don't mean to sound like I'm lecturing, but I'm just speaking from my own experience. And I know a lot of people feel stuck in the world, and a lot of people feel like they're not where they want to be. And, a lot of these like personal development and self-help people, they talk about like, it has to feel good. It has to feel right. It has to feel this. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Get out of your comfort zone. If you're too comfortable, it's never going to happen. You have to make yourself uncomfortable. You have to go to the place you do not want to go. And then the doors are going to open. And if they don't, just kick them down anyway.
Find a window, break it in.
Break it in, exactly.
That's right.
Love it. Yes.
This is fabulous. Let's never end this conversation.
Seriously.
I'm such a nerd. I really am.
No,
I'm just such a theater nerd.
In all the right ways. Yes.
I love the process. It's, and I would never be where I am right now if I listened to that, like, I don't want to. Because we all have it.
For our audience, tell us what you renamed the book to.
Year of the What? I actually wrote out 50 other titles.
Oh, yeah?
And it was as simple as just changing one word. Slut to what?
It's brilliant, really.
It's fantastic.
That's the most brilliant title to change it to.
Thank you. And then the artwork kind of like alludes to, kind of a Sex and the City type of story. And then book 2 is Year of the Bitch, which I'm working on now. And I'm going to have the same problems with bitch and the censors as I did with slut. So Year of the What is just a good umbrella to keep all of my pejoratives under.
I see.
Yeah, I'm basically taking words that are weaponized against women and using them, reframing them as empowerment.
Right.
Yeah.
These don't have to be the archetypes we're used to.
No.
That is...
No.
Well done. That's also a very clever name change and an effective one. That's why I liked it so much when I found out what it was before, because I didn't know about it then. I thought, oh, I see what she did there. I like it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And Josh said in the chat, we love nerds here.
Yay.
We do.
We do, for sure. We are also nerds.
What is a nerd anyway? Somebody who's passionate about a particular thing. Like, what's wrong with passion?
Nothing.
Yeah, if you're not a nerd, how are you living?
Yes.
Facts.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Jen, I have to say, like, your perspective on just life in general is so refreshing to have, and I love this. And I feel very invigorated to walk into that callback on Wednesday and just have fun and just enjoy the process.
And do it for you. Don't do it for them.
No, do it for us. Do it for we.
Yes.
Do it for we.
For
it's a we world.
So I I really got a lot out of this conversation, and I really hope that our listening audience will as well. You have an amazing spirit, and you deserve all the things. I'm just going to say it now. You deserve all
Thank
the
you.
things.
Well, it's taken a journey to get here, right? Like life is a journey for everyone. Everybody's journey is different. And yeah, like I said, I'm just grateful to still be in the game, however way I get to be in it. Whether it's my dream or someone else's dream, just getting to be a part of a dream is so cool.
And that living in that gratitude, I think, is the way to go for sure. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, and also everybody gets a piece of ownership on these things. It's not like a painting where it's just one person. It's a tapestry of like so many collaborators that have to come together to make something happen. And we all get to own a little piece of it, and everybody's work matters. You know, like we need the costumes, we need the music, we need the singers, we need the orchestra, we need everybody coming together to play their part to make it happen. And if one piece is missing, it's noticed.
Yes, we would have a lot of naked actors.
Who are all singing off key.
And different songs.
And a cappella.
Before we wrap up here, the Truth on said, real definition of a nerd is a person who is extremely enthusiastic and knowledgeable about a particular subject, especially one of special or niche interest, which is
Ooh.
excellent in my personal opinion.
Yes. Oh, I like that definition.
Jen, before we wrap up here on the podcast, I have one last question for you. Well, two rather. First is you get to have lunch with anybody that you want, alive or dead, and you are just picking their brain for lunch. Nothing, nothing too extravagant. Who is sitting on the opposite side of that table from you?
Oh, the love of my life, Elton John.
Oh, yes. The love
I'm
of your life. I
sorry,
love
but
that.
the diva extraordinaire, like from fashion to music to musicals to theater to oh my God, Elton, my first love.
Well, and it's not
Oh,
too late because he's still around.
Well, exactly, exactly. Yes, yeah, he had like one of the biggest, like as a young person, that was like the first cassette tape I ever owned when I was 3 years old. And like most children would like have a teddy bear or a blankie or a binky. I had my little tape recorder with Elton John, and that's what I snuggled to go to sleep with every night as a child. And it was my favorite thing
How
ever.
wonderful. It
Yeah.
must be because you answered that so quickly. I
Oh,
thought this
Elton.
is,
Yeah. Like, please. Oh,
you knew.
yes.
I will see you, Elton, and I will raise you, Diana Ross and the Supremes.
Like all the
Ooh.
Supremes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can we be sitting across from each other at the same restaurant?
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yes. Oh, yes, please.
That's
Yes.
brilliant.
I would appreciate that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'll send over a bottle of champagne.
Oh, I will send whatever caviar you
We'll
want.
be like 3 feet.
Last question. We want to make sure that our listening audience and our viewing audience can stay in touch with you and all the incredible artistic things that you're doing. Where can they follow you to keep up with you?
I am Jen Lieberman on all the platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not a teenager. I'm sorry. I couldn't get into that trend. But I am Jen Lieberman. And all those pages have like a link to my website or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yes. Yeah, thank you so much. This was such a treat. So much fun.
It was. And I feel like it ended. So, this hour has gone by so fast. we hardly scratched the surface of fashion. I feel like we should have you back sometime
I would
so that we
love.
can talk about all the things.
Can we talk about Elton fashion?
Oh,
Oh,
we
yeah.
have
Oh,
to.
yes.
I think we should show up with Elton That's kind of like my new glasses. Except we talked about this before the show that they don't have rhinestones.
Oh, but they're still
But they're
fabulous.
fun. I don't know if they're me yet, but they were fun.
They are so much
Thank
fun.
you.
And a little 80s, I might say.
A little bit, yeah. I again wasn't sure, but here
The
we
color
are.
palette is giving me very 80s.
I'll take it.
Yes.
Okay, I figured out where that color palette. I know that color palette from. 13 going on 30, the dress that
Oh.
Jennifer Garner wears.
Oh.
All of those colors are, I think, or at least what's coming through my screen, look like it is in your glasses right now. And
Interesting. I'm gonna have to
that
look
is
that one
why I
up.
love it so much.
I'm kind of ashamed that I don't immediately know what that dress is. But yeah. You know, we should. It's kind of too bad the Oscars were like yesterday because we could have like sat and watched the red carpet together, and that we should have made that happen.
Could I
didn't
be
even think
Joan?
of course,
Yes, please.
Joan is
Sometimes it's fun
in
to
all
be
of
a
us
little
a little bit.
nasty.
No,
Yeah,
we could film that. We could film it and put it up on our Patreon as like a special video, like behind the scenes content.
we could. We'd have to find. Yeah, I guess we'd have to find a red carpet to do now, like because it's past.
Yeah, that's
Well,
We
fair.
could look for the next
There's always an event show coming up, right?
Mhm.
There's always like some sort of
some
something.
award show. Yeah,
Yeah. We'll figure
we'll
it
find
out.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'll be fun.
absolutely.
Because
Well,
Joe Delude said he'd do it too, so we need to get him back on.
yes.
Oh, fun.
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. Yes. Well, put me down for.
Okay, that would be
yes.
fun.
Yes.
Well, Jen, again, thank you so much for being on today. And to our listening audience, thank you so much for tuning in today. You can find additional content, behind the scenes content on our Patreon. Just search for TheModRom. And then you can also find us on our website at themodrom.com. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.